Alright, so I need to talk about this because what I'm noticing in the comment sections of my videos are it's very telling. It's very telling of how people think. And it may be right in certain instances, but in these instances it's not, because we are talking about one specific thing and how it affects us all as Americans. Okay? Now, whenever someone with a criminal past is brutalized by the police, someone always, many people always bring up, oh, well, they used to sell drugs on the corner, or they went to jail for robbing these people, or they had a domestic violence charge because they smacked their girlfriend. It's always something that people bring up to try to justify why the cops killed somebody, or why the cops put somebody in the ICU, or why the cops just beat the hell out of somebody, okay? First of all, I'm going to say that there are plenty of good cops. As a matter of fact, I believe that most police are good people, and they do not want to hurt people, and they do not want to kill people, okay? We know that there are sociopaths and psychopaths, and that are evil, okay? People that work in law enforcement, and they only like to hurt people, okay? We know this. I'm talking about the bad police at this moment. Now, after getting that part out the way, those two parts out the way, people bring this up like it justifies the person being killed. Now look, I get the process of thinking, okay? I get that line of thinking. Okay, people always say, you bring up this guy. Why do people always bring this guy up? Because, you know, really outlandish examples help drive a point home sometimes, okay? Okay. Hitler could be sitting at a bar in Miami, and someone walked up to him and shot him in the head, you know, and took his watch. And, you know, people like, oh, that was, you know, he deserved it. Okay, we understand your line of thinking. But that action of walking up, shooting a man in the head and taking his watch was wrong. And that's what we're trying to say, okay? Because if these officers are not doing their jobs properly, okay, it's really publicized when a person has a checkered past. So after they're shot or they're killed or they're hurt, they try to make it look like it, you know, because different channels and different media have different agendas. Some defend the person, some don't defend the person. They try to make it look like they're guilty just before they were shot. So, you know what I mean? But think about this. Here is my main issue. Well, it's two main issues. If the cops are not doing their jobs the way they're supposed to, then that means that people without checkered pasts, the true good people, are also being brutalized. Who hasn't had an off day where they acted out of character? Think about this for a second. What if it was your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your uncle, your grandfather, whoever that is on the news getting brutalized, and you know they don't have a checkered past, but it may have been a situation where they were just financially in trouble and, you know, financially stressed, and maybe their girlfriend broke up with them. That can make people so distraught that they act out of character. They could get stopped for speeding and just walk away from an officer talking to them. Or they could just flip out because it's so much at this point that they act out of character. And then the scared police officer who who doesn't follow protocol, or maybe they do, and protocols need to be changed because so many people think it's okay to just kill people on a whim. I'm very surprised at how many of you think it's okay to just snuff a life out on a whim like that. You got what I'm saying? Plenty of people have been killed without having a weapon. Okay? What you know, and I'm thinking about this with Jacob Blake, and I'm like, okay, more and more people start to send me more info. I was like, okay, this dude was probably a piece of shit if all this is correct. If all this info that they sent me is correct. If all of this info is correct, then this guy was probably a piece of shit. They were saying that, he had a knife, and he said out loud, I'm going to the car to get a gun. You got what I'm saying? That he had been accused of, brandishing a firearm at people and stuff like that, and domestic violence or something like that. If all of it's true, okay? So he walks around the car, someone said, people are saying, yeah, he actually had a knife in his hand when he was walking around the car. I could understand because I was thinking, well, why didn't the cop actually tackle him or something like that? Apparently the taser didn't work on him or something like that. It misfired or just didn't connect or whatever. Because I'm thinking, like, they could have did something else to get him before they shot him 7 times. I don't understand why he was shooting him that many times in the back. I don't get that, but, it's like... Anyway, so, I think that too many people think that it's okay to kill somebody. I think that that's a major, major issue. And, I have friends in other countries, and they're telling me it's not like this over here. And we look at the television in awe when we're watching stuff about America and what you do to each other. It's amazing that your police officers do this to people. And I'm not just talking about black people, I'm talking to people. I mean, it's sickening. You got what I'm saying? A lot of new protocols need to be written, and their training change and stuff like this. Now, like I said in the video, because it was kind of stupid, somebody accused me of taking his side. I wasn't taking his side, I was looking at both sides. Because I was like, look, if he was actually walking around the car, because he looked like he had purpose in his mind, in his body language. If he was like, fuck it, I'm going to get the gun. I'm tired of the cops. If he was really, I get it. Especially if he had a knife in his hand. Like, damn, the cop doesn't want to tackle him because he has a knife in his hand. The guy could fall on the knife, the cop could fall on it, he could swing, body armor isn't that great against knives from what I understand. So I'm kind of, okay, so, I think it's really strange that they don't have body cams. All police officers have body cams and mics and that. But anyway, so I get that one, But I don't know, there was a couple of officers, they could have, I don't know, I just don't see shooting them in the back. I don't know, man. I just don't. But the way it transpired, it's like, okay, we tried everything we could. I didn't want to tackle him. I didn't want to do this. And then we actually see the gun when he opens the car and he's like, fucking, I'm going in. I get why he was shot. I get it. I do. In that instance, I take the cop's side. Do you hear me? In that instance, I do take the cop's side. Because I'm like, shit, I don't want to shine that many fucking times. You know what I mean? Like, I know what type of person I am. And if I was a police officer and I told the dude, like, look, stop. I'm not trying to tackle you. I dropped the knife and, man, fuck that. I'm going to get my gun too. And I'm sitting there holding his shirt and he opens it and I see the gun in the car and he reaches for it. Pow! You know what I mean? But I'm not, you know what I mean? But whatever, that was probably fear and all that other stuff. You gotta protect your life as a police officer. The police officer may have been totally justified in this. I have not looked at any new news yet. What I've basically looked at is a few things that people sent me. They sent me like links and they told me, yo, look at this. This is what happened. And this is why I'm saying if all this stuff is true. I still have to go through more info. You know what I'm saying? I just woke up and this was on my mind. That people don't get that just because you did X, Y, and Z a few years ago or a few months ago, it doesn't mean that an officer pulling up to you at Wawa while you're sitting in your car eating a fucking honey bun deserves to shoot you in cold blood. Like, I get the connection of maybe you murdered somebody a few years ago and you're like, okay, well, that's his karma. He deserved that. I get that. What the disconnect is people don't get is that these are two separate, unrelated unrelated actions. The cop doesn't know you killed some people a few years ago. All we know is that the cop is not following proper protocol and they kill somebody in cold blood like that. That means that if they are killing people who they don't know what type of past they've had, even though they may have been bad people, that means that they're doing it to really good people too. Okay? Good Samaritans that have had a bad day or don't like how the cops are talking to them. Because sometimes cops, they really step out of bounds. They do. They step out of bounds. They talk to you like they own you. They talk to you like you're their bitch. You know what I mean? Some cops are like that. You know what I mean? And some people ain't going for it. Are they wrong for that? Well, you should just do whatever the cop says. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't think like that. Okay? Because if they, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're not supposed to be killing people on the streets like that. You know what I mean? I've seen plenty of those traffic stops, you know what I mean? And a lawyer gets stopped or someone that really knows the law gets stopped and you're like, wow, they're not allowed to ask you that. Oh, they don't need to ask you that. Well, they're allowed to ask you, but you don't have to answer. That's interesting. Oh, okay. They can't do this. They can't do that. They can't. You start to see that they overstep a lot. I'm not saying they all do that. I find it interesting. I've been in situations where they overstepped, and I didn't know that until I saw certain videos. So going back to what I said, stop bringing up the person's past. Let's look at what transpired in this specific situation. And if the cop acted properly according to this specific situation, and not about the guy smacking his girlfriend or beating his ex-wife's kid in the head with something 5 years ago. I'm not saying none of that shit is wrong. What I'm saying is look at the situation at hand. Okay? Because that's what matters. Because if it's just a innocent situation where it's just a person, good or bad, not breaking the law or not threatening to the police and they kill them, then that means they're doing it to people good and bad. Okay? And people that don't deserve it are definitely getting it. Okay? That's the reason why I'm doing this video. Because there are good people out there that are being brutalized and murdered by the police. Good people. Okay? The criminals may deserve it. Okay? May. There's certain crimes you deserve death. You know what I mean? You're raping and killing women, you're molesting children, and you're murdering people in the street over sneakers. And look, I get that. There's certain types of crimes. But if you robbed a convenience store, you didn't hurt nobody, you just took the money, does that deserve death? I don't know about that. A lot of time, a good ass whipping maybe. You know what I'm saying? But death? I don't know. You snatch a purse. Does that deserve death? Turning your back on a police officer with no weapon in your hand? Does that deserve death? Resisting arrest with no weapons on you? Does that deserve death? Running from the scene of a crime with no weapons on you, trying to run into the woods. Does that deserve death? I think we're desensitized to death, to where we think it's just okay, like that's it. It's final. I'm talking about the good people that may have just been pushed too far, lost their job, been divorced, and they don't feel like talking to the police. Or they get scared and they run or something. I ran through several scenarios, okay? We're not talking about Jacob Blake right now, okay? I am talking about good people that are being caught in certain situations, that don't have a record, that are good people that may have just snapped for the day because life is so stressful and because police are not doing their jobs properly. They're being murdered in the streets also. The people that don't deserve it. The people that are just having a bad fucking day. Alright, I'm done ranting. There'll be a lot of fucking stupid comments. I'll be watching.